Salutations everybody, it is Matty here today, sitting down for an Xbox news update. It's our first one in some time. As many of you know, this past week was Gamescom, and that means we got to see a lot of brand new games coming out this year, many of them exclusive to Xbox or coming day one to Game Pass. I wanted to just sit down in this video and make sure we talk about some of them, shine some light on some others, because there are some fantastic games coming to the platform I'm really excited about. We're going to be talking about High on Life, Wo Long. We're also going to be talking about, of course, Lies of P. So much to say, so we'll get into that. But our headliner for this video is going to be about the PlayStation 5 price increase. It's completely taken over the internet. Why is PlayStation doing this? How are they doing it? We're going to get into both of those because it's an interesting situation that's steadily becoming a trend if you've paid attention to other companies increasing the price of their respective technology. And we're going to get into how this could impact Xbox in a very positive way. Last but certainly not least, we're going to talk about Xbox Game Pass and how the service is transforming yet again in a way that I think will be very exciting for customers as we have some more details on the Friends and Family service. So with that, if you're new here and you like Xbox news and information, consider subscribing. Certainly the news updates have been less frequent. I've been trying to take in feedback from all of you and also see how much all of you enjoy the diversity of content between the reviews and the Let's Play style stuff and more discussion-oriented content. I've liked it a lot more. It's made running the channel a lot more enjoyable. And it seems like, again, based off the performance, you all do too. So thank you so much for supporting that stuff. We'll continue to do news, of course. That's our bread and butter. But with that, let's get into numero uno with the PlayStation 5 price increase. Before we talk about that, though, we have to talk about Meta. Like I said, this isn't the first time in 2022 we've seen a price increase for a gaming device. Last we saw it was the Oculus Quest 2, where Meta decided to hike up the price by $100, citing a similar reason as PlayStation due to economic inflation and that this was required. With Meta having so much money, I find it hard to sympathize for them. Plus, no offense to my co-host Cog, I kind of don't like Meta in the first place. Like, once they brought in that synchronization of your Facebook account and your Oculus account, and they're like, yeah, you need to sign in to play Oculus games, I went, see you later, and my Rift literally is collecting dust until they remove that feature. I don't have anything to hide, but look, when you start to make it where you got to get my personal details for me to play Oculus games, I'm okay. So Meta's lost my respect, what little there was, over the years. And I think there's something to be said that instead of creating economic pressure for your customers, that putting pressure on the company is probably the better thing, especially when you're in the VR space where it's already tough to grow, tough to get people to buy in, and now you've made it more expensive. Really funny choice there. And I think you could take that same path of logic and apply it to PlayStation. So they announced a couple of days ago via the PlayStation blog that there will be a price increase everywhere around the world for the PlayStation 5, both in its disc form and its digital form, except for the United States. So these are the respective price increases, which is a €50 or $50 increase over in Europe, a £30 increase in the UK. Japan will have a 5,000 yen increase. Then China will have a 400 yuan increase. Australia will have a 50 Australian dollar increase. Mexico will have 1,000 peso increase. And Canada will be a $20 increase to 649 Canadian dollars. So around the world, these consoles are already a lot more expensive than what you're paying for typically in the United States. So we do have to require some degree of perspective on both ends of the conversation. When the consoles are already expensive and they are a luxury purchase, to me, yes, I do have a full-time job by doing this, and it is my passion, it is my hobby. What's another $50? And on that note, do know that nothing is changing with the PlayStation 5. The price increase is occurring with nothing changing for the console, no benefits, no additions, nothing, just a price increase. But that's kind of the Achilles heel of this conversation, because I do look at the other side of the fence with what Xbox is offering in the terms of value and purchasing programs, and it makes them a lot more tantalizing to buy into, where that $50 could be a make or break for a lot of people. Not in the terms of if $50 is going to make or break your life, then you probably shouldn't be buying a gaming system. I got to tell you how it is. But at the same time, what I mean by that is you can afford the system and maybe like one game for the month, right? That one game will carry you for a while, will carry your entertainment for a while. So you have to really consider heavily. And if you look at $50 extra into your purchase of a PlayStation 5 versus, oh, I can do a monthly purchase program with Xbox All Access and I get Game Pass, which is $15 a month. So I get, 3 months worth of games instead of that additional $50 just to afford the console for the PlayStation 5. And within those 3 months, I can access hundreds of video games, some of which I don't know what they'll be because they're going to continue to add games to the service. Oh, and some of those are new day one? Okay. I just feel like it makes the decision a lot easier for those who are on the fence. And that's the battle here that we have to really consider. Is it's not going to, I think, be this decisive blow against PlayStation like the media has made it out to be. But the problem here is, as a competitor, you definitely never want to make it easier to make a choice to go to the other side. Especially when Xbox did respond via a comment to Windows Central Gaming, where they said in a statement, "We are constantly evaluating our business to offer our fans great gaming options. Our Series S suggested retail price remains at $300 and the Xbox Series X at $500. See, this is where Xbox's plan that we talked about at the beginning of the generation is really going to pay off. That $300 Series S option is already very tantalizing. And then you factor in Xbox All Access, if the place you're buying it from offers that. You factor in Game Pass. That value proposition is exactly what brought PlayStation to the promised land before they started to deliver great exclusives. I remember the beginning of the PS4 Xbox One generation. To my personal opinion, I thought Xbox One had the better exclusives out the gate for the first year or so versus PlayStation, where things really started to pick up, and I'd say 2015. You still had things like Infamous Second Son, but it was really not until 2015 with Bloodborne that PlayStation had a true cadence of just top-notch games consistently, and I gradually moved over. But what kept PlayStation in the hands of gamers before they started to deliver the things they were truly anticipating was the value proposition. PlayStation was cheaper than Xbox. And this is also a sign of PlayStation's global domination, which is what Xbox is really struggling to battle back against. Xbox is very much dominant in the West, but when it comes to other countries, they're growing, but they need to do better. The reason PlayStation's able to do this in certain areas, I believe, is because in somewhere like Europe, where FIFA's very popular, where PlayStation's extremely popular, they can increase the price because they know people will pay it anyway. Again, the correlations between PlayStation and Nintendo are just becoming more and more stronger move after move by each of these respective companies. PlayStation Plus, the artificial price increase, it all just screams to me Nintendo. Now, what's really fascinating about PlayStation doing this is typically what we've learned throughout our time studying video games is that hardware does not generate profits. It's typically getting the console in people's hands and having them buy the software, preferably through the PlayStation Store, which is why they optimize that. They try to make it the best possible experience, subscription services, and also they're able to make the money back through certain acquisitions they're making. Let's transition into another bit of news here, which I do think plays a factor in this conversation. PlayStation just bought Savage Game Studios. Savage Game Studios is a mobile developer, and I know what you may be thinking. You're rolling your eyes. Ugh, mobile games. I'm right there with you. Mobile gaming, it's hit me here and there, but it's very much spaced apart. Otherwise, though, I prefer my gaming like all of you on the television screen, high quality console games, handheld games, you know how it goes. However, in order for these companies to continue to make the console quality games that we all care about, because game development is becoming more expensive, we're seeing them start to go to places with more recurrent revenue. Subscription services, live service games, mobile games. And look, we can all point the finger. I saw the replies in the tweet when this announcement was made of, oh, PlayStation thought they were getting Square Enix, look what they got. Xbox is doing the same thing. A lot of people focus on the AB when it comes to Xbox acquiring Activision. They forget about the K part of the deal, which is King. King brings in hundreds of millions of dollars through Candy Crush, which will arguably bring more to the table for Microsoft to continue to flex their creative muscles for their other studios, because that is just a guaranteed cash cow, while all their other studios can do, I don't want to say whatever the hell they want, but when you have money consistently coming in from one avenue, you can worry less about the others and allow for more experimentation where it matters. And PlayStation's trying to establish themselves in that position. Why do you think they're investing in over 10 live service games in the coming years? Why do you think they're buying a mobile game studio? Why do you think they're going to PC and double dipping on games that already released? It's because the money here is needed to provide those console quality games. And yes, they're even going to inch things forward and try to charge you more for stuff like your console, for things like the director's cut. Remember the $10 upgrades while smart delivery exists? It's not just this one single incident here with PlayStation. It's a number of others, and it becomes a death of a thousand cuts. I'm not going to sit here and tell you PlayStation's dying, but I'm definitely going to tell you they're making some really stupid moves. And in the long run, if someone values their dollar, it will add up over time, and they should move to Xbox because you will have more money for games. Those $10, $15, $50 all add up over time. Now, granted, a console is typically a one-time purchase, so I think that could be a little easier to erase. But when you're looking at, again, perspective, other countries where it's upwards of $700 for their currency, yeah, it's pretty hard to justify that type of investment. But this also is on an economic level signifying the strength of the US dollar versus other regions around the world. So yes, it's an issue that goes far beyond gaming, but it's one that I think PlayStation has taken the wrong approach to personally. I'm not going to sit here and act like the world's on fire because they're charging more for their console, but I think when you're charging more in all these other areas, you know, your subscription service is a little more than Game Pass, your console's a little more than Xbox, you're charging for director's cuts. You see what I'm saying? It adds up over time, and that's the important thing to track long term. We'll see how it all pans out. I'm not going to act like PlayStation's going to die, but hey, I'm very keen to see how things turn out by the end of the generation when Xbox begins delivering, because on their hands is the tough task of delivering the good console quality games that are going to draw the major attention. So we'll see how it all goes, but interesting to see where PlayStation has ended up. Let's talk about day one Game Pass and exclusive games for Xbox. As I mentioned at the start of this video, Gamescom is well underway, and there were some fantastic games shown off extensively. So we had opening night live, which we got a good look at snippets of games that were coming up, like Lies of P, like High on Life. But then, shout out to the press outlets. They went ham with the gameplay. It was kind of a nice throwback because I remember during E3, it was so exciting to see like 12 minutes of gameplay for this, 15 minutes of gameplay for that, 8 minutes of gameplay for this. And you're like, oh, whoa, I didn't even know they were going to show more gameplay. I forgot that feeling, and so it was so nice to re-experience that. So to see 25 minutes of High on Life gameplay was such a pleasant surprise. Now, I'm going to be real with you all. I watched like a handful of minutes of this, and I tapped out and said, I'm going dark. I don't need to see more. This game looks hilarious. I got up to the part, y'all know the part, where the kid's in your way, and he's like, oh, come on, what, are you going to stop me? Aren't you going to stop me? You can't kill me. I'm a kid in a video game. And you try to shoot him, and your gun's like talking back to you saying, whoa, 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 we're not going to kill the kid. And finally you shoot him, and it turns out he was like 35. I love that stuff, man. I mean, it's such a self-aware game, and it makes up for, I think, what looked like okay gameplay, right? It looks good, it looks fun, it looks playable, but doesn't look like that'll be the superstar. What looks like it's the superstar is the comedy, the writing, and it very much has developed a personality of its own. And in fact, I've been paying attention online to the discourse. Again, some people are a little divided, like this could get annoying, some people are all in on it, but what I've seen is a lot more attention be put on this game. This was the conference, this was the moment where High on Life has reached a new level, and it shows that Xbox was wise to invest early and get this game day one on Game Pass as a console exclusive, because it's definitely becoming one of the more talked about games this year. Is it going to be on the level like God of War Ragnarok when it comes to industry conversation? I don't think so, but this is the type of game that you're absolutely going to see shared on Twitter, TikTok. It's going to be all over the place because of the funny moments that happen, like, whoa, can't believe this was in the game. That stuff is really important, right? The sharing of a video game and saying, hey, it's exclusive to us. I think Xbox is wise to invest in this. You can check the videos. I said it when the showcase was over. I'm saying it again. This was a really smart get by them. It is going to pay off big time, and they'd be wise, if this game turns out well, to keep that partnership close. And I'm not just talking acquisition, sequels, expansions, that type of stuff. Get in on this because right now it's looking like a hot game for a ton of people. Next, day one Game Pass game, another one that if it delivers, get close because you may have your answer to the Soulsborne genre. Oh my gosh, Lies of P. This is a game that has skyrocketed up to near the top of my most anticipated games of 2023. I mean, coming off of Elden Ring, I thought I'd be sort of tapped out of the Soulsborne genre. I thought, okay, I've had the fill of what I think is the best of the best, and I don't think anyone could come near it. Here comes along this Bloodborne-style game with a dark retelling of Pinocchio's story. The combat actually looks good. It looks like a faithful imitation, if you will, of the Soulsborne genre with its own ideas, but yet also borrowing, like weapons are transforming similar to Bloodborne. I mean, I'm just loving what I'm seeing of Lies of P. The enemy design is so crucial to, I think, the success of this game because it's very different with the automatons. I'm big on this one. I cannot wait for it. And the fact that it's day one on Game Pass is, again, incredibly mind-boggling to me. I keep looking at it thinking, how did Xbox get this one locked down? This had to be a game that just needed the budget, and Xbox was willing to supply with a day one Game Pass deal and give them a lump sum of cash. I'm assuming that's what happened here because this game, I feel, just would have sold on its own, but it looks fantastic. Cannot wait to play it. There was also Ghost Song, which was revealed at Gamescom. This is going to be day one on Game Pass. For those of you who are Metroidvania fans out there, this might be one worth looking into. Animations are a little bit clunky, but that's fine. The game looks like it has a lot of charm. Again, day one on Game Pass. For those of you who are Metroid fans, I saw a ton of parallels there after playing Metroid Dread. It just seems super familiar, which is totally okay because I feel like we have a low when it comes to games that are in that genre. And then last but not least, had to give a little bit of a shout out to Wo Long. We got our first look at gameplay at Gamescom, and okay, so as someone who wasn't big on Strangers of Paradise at the beginning of the year, much to the dismay of the internet, when I played that game, I was like, they had to be busy with something else. Wo Long gets revealed, and I think maybe that's it. I see this trailer, I see the dodging, the evading, the kill shots, the co-op combo attacks. I think, okay, that's where all the attention and budget went. You cannot tell me, just by looks alone, you cannot take a look at Stranger of Paradise and Wo Long and tell me that all the same amount of effort was put into Stranger of Paradise. That was 100% a low-budget game, and you could feel that, and especially the testing, because builds in that game were broken in, by the way, the worst way possible by the end of that game, and that's what ruined it for me, even if it had a good bit of comedy in it because of the main character. Wo Long, though, looks fantastic. I am so excited to get my hands on this, and again, one of those games I look at and think, day one Game Pass. If you remember some of my early critiques of Game Pass, it was that at the beginning of the era of day one drops, I said we need to increase the quality of the content here. A lot of people pushed back, but as we got games like Dark Alliance and many more broken titles and things like The Ascent, which looked good but were very buggy, it started to become this conversation that picked up across the industry. But there was some initial resistance. I remember it very clearly. Over time, though, it became, well, now everything's co-op and multiplayer, and that's great, but we also want single-player games. And it feels like Xbox has really answered the bell, because if you remove all of their exclusives that are coming out from first-party studios, and you look at their third-party investments, games like what we've talked about today with Wo Long, Lies of P, and High on Life, as well as Ravenlock, and then you look at things including the first-party studios, Starfield, etc., etc. I mean, they are really going in on single-player games, and that's awesome for the service because for people like me, I feel like I'm being rewarded for my investment. So, very pumped for the future. Just wanted to shout out some games here. Last but not least, let's briefly talk about something that was confirmed by Xbox that they were going to expand into a new offering with the Game Pass Ultimate program, which would allow you to share your subscription with others. It is reported to be called Xbox Game Pass Family and Friends. It was found on the back end via Illumia Italia over on Twitter, a user who does scrape the back end of Xbox. And this new tier would allow members to, as we already learned, share memberships with multiple users. It's one of those stories I saw and went, I'm not sure why the story is a story because, you know, we're looking at something that was announced by Xbox themselves, so we just have a name behind it, and it's one that you probably could have assumed, but anyway, it seems like it's well on its way. Maybe it's going to be shown off very soon. Again, I think the wisest thing Xbox can do right now, especially with Game Pass being the thing that's going to hard carry them through the rest of this year, is to, you know, make sure Family and Friends is up and running, so when the real heavy hitters come in 2023, like Lies of P, Wo Long, and Xbox first-party exclusives, that you have the Family and Friends package good to go so people can capitalize on the value. At least that's what I'm hoping for, and I think that seems to be what's going to happen. So with that, that's all of your Xbox news and information for today's video. Let me know what you think about this in the comments down below. I'm certainly looking forward to getting your thoughts. Other than that, be sure to follow me on Twitter, follow me on Instagram. Those links are in the description down below. And a big thank you to all the patrons, all the members who continue to support the hell out of the content here. Stay sexy, stay active. I love you all. Peace.